What's going on, guys? B. Scott here with you on today's show. We got your running back sit starts heading in to week number 14. For many of you, this is the last week before the playoffs. It's a must win. So we're going to get to some running backs, some starts, some sits, and I like to talk about the studs to give them some face. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going through your running back sit starts heading into week number 14. Lots of running backs, a couple big ones on bye, Jonathan Taylor, more specifically, also Miles Sanders and the whole Eagles squad. But we're going to get to the running back sit starts heading into week 14. Like I mentioned in the preview, this is must-win territory. Got to win to get in for many of you. So let's dive into the content. But before we get to it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, and then comment if there's a running back I don't mention, because I'm not going to mention every single one. Drop in the comment section if you have any questions about running backs I mentioned, don't mention, start 2, pick 2, flex, whatever you want to ask. Drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my advice. So let's start at the top. I like to start with your must-start running backs anyway. I give about my roughly top 12, and then I'll get to some sits and starts. So first off, Austin Eckler, facing the New York Giants. He's been great on the season. He's a top 5 running back. He's getting it done. Honestly, with so many injuries to the running backs at this point in the season, He's nothing short of outstanding. He's been doing what we expect him to do anyway. So Austin Eckler, set and forget it, facing the New York Giants. Joe Mixon, facing San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco has struggled against running backs at times this season. And Joe Mixon, 9 straight games with a touchdown. You're going to be starting him. Leonard Fournette facing the Buffalo Bills. Tough matchup here, but it's Leonard Fournette. You're not sitting him at this point. He's a top 5 running back, played very, very well, and he's averaging 5-6 catches per game, especially over his last 4 or 5 games. So Leonard Fournette, set and forget. Najee Harris at the Minnesota Vikings. You got to be playing him here. Yes, he's kind of slowed down as of late. He's not getting it done with his carries. He's not getting targeted as much either, with Deontay Johnson just averaging 15 targets a game. So it's hurting Najee's overall outlook, but you got to be starting him. He's still always on any given week, potential top 5 to 10 backs. So Najee Harris, you're starting him. Cordero Patterson at the Carolina Panthers. Kind of a tough spot. Carolina, second fewest fantasy points to the running back position on the season, but you're firing Cordero Patterson. He's been great on the season, so starting him, no problems there. Aaron Jones, back hopefully from injury, facing the Chicago Bears. Now, yes, you saw before the bye, he played in that game, but he was very limited on snaps and didn't really have to do much because A.J. Dillon just carried the load. I think Aaron Jones really bounces back, could have a strong day here. I like him as a great spot to where he could potentially blow up in this game. So Antonio Gibson facing the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, pretty tough against the running backs overall. But Gibson last year, I want to say, had a game in which he had over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns against these Dallas Cowboys. So I'd be firing Antonio Gibson here, even in a tough spot. He's averaging like 25 carries per game over his last 2 or 3 games. So Nick Chubb facing the Baltimore Ravens. They faced the Baltimore Ravens just before the bye, 8 carries for 16 total yards. You're not going to get it done with Nick Chubb on the ground or try and establish the run when you give Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in football, 7-8 carries. It's just not going to happen here. So I like Nick Chubb at home against the Baltimore Ravens, albeit they've been tough against running backs. But if Cleveland's going to come out and try and get this victory, it's got to be running through the running backs, and Nick Chubb should have a great day. James Conner facing the Los Angeles Rams. They're decent against the running backs as well, but James Conner's been great. One of my sleepers coming into the season. That was one of our big sleepers at the running back position. We just thought he would fill the Kenyon Drake role just fine, and guess what? He's really been that and plus. So James Conner's been a great addition to your fantasy team. Wherever you drafted him, 8th, 10th round, he's been a top 10 back. So I'd be starting him here. Now, yes, Chase Edmonds, if he's back from IR, I'd still probably be starting James Conner with the touchdown upside. You just got to limit your expectations. Josh Jacobs at the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City's defense has been played very, very well. Josh Jacobs has played pretty well. And now, no Kenyon Drake. I could see Jacobs once again pick up even a little more workload. And you see it. He's getting it done with the receiving work as well. So Josh Jacobs is a top 12 back for me. David Montgomery at the Green Bay Packers. David Montgomery touched the ball 29 times last week against the Arizona Cardinals. I could see a similar workload here for David Montgomery. Just keep running it with him. That's all you can find success with. Then you might as well set it and forget it and do it. So David Montgomery is going to round out my top 12 with Zeke. And Zeke, I'm on the fence with just sitting or starting. I get it. He's hurt. You see it on the field. He's really hobbled. And it's not a good matchup. Washington football team, I want to say, gives up bottom 5 fantasy points to running backs. They've been pretty good on the season so far. And Zeke has the touchdown upside. Really, I think you got to limit your expectations with Zeke and understand that his floor is probably somewhere between 5 and 8 points. Maybe in PPR, he can get you to 10 points without a touchdown. But it's going to take him a touchdown to push him over that mark. Hopefully he can get one this week. I'd probably be starting him no matter what, unless you have really a lot better options. But if you have to start Zeke as your RB2 or a flex, I understand. It could be tough, don't get me wrong, but you probably got to be firing him here. And then I'm going to talk about a few guys that have injuries, some top guys. Alvin Kamara, facing the New York Jets. If he's active, you're firing him here. I'm kind of worried. One of my leagues in which I really, really need a victory this week, I'm facing Alvin Kamara. And once again, this is a guy that can score 40 points, 50 points. And the New York Jets are a team that could give that to him. So I'm a little worried there. But if he's available and active, you're setting him as a top 5 back. Darrell Henderson, facing the Arizona Cardinals, missed the game last week. If he's active, you probably got to be starting him. He's been good on the season. Dalvin Cook, they're saying he's questionable, maybe going. If he goes, I don't know whether to start him or sit him. I'd probably have to get him in your lineups. Maybe he's just an emergency back. But if you got to start Dalvin Cook, I understand. If he's active and ready to play, there's no way you can really sit him here. It's not a terrible matchup. But if he's out and inactive, Alexander Mattison and must start, obvious. DeAndre Swift at the Denver Broncos, still looking iffy to play. If he does go, you got to start him because he's so talented. But other than that, if he doesn't, Jamal Williams, he's an okay low-end starter. Denver's very good against running backs as well. But, of course, you're going to see 15 to 20 touches for Jamal Williams if DeAndre Swift were to miss, so that's hard to just give up on. He'd be probably a low-end RB2 with a touchdown upside to get him into that mid-range to higher RB2 range. Now on to some running back starts. Guys that I like this week that I think you should definitely have in your lineups. One is Javonte Williams, and I'm going to throw Melvin Gordon in here. I like both of them this week. The Detroit Lions give up third most fantasy points to the running back position. They've given up 7 receiving touchdowns on the season, which is second most. And Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams both can receive the ball in the backfield, which is why I like both of them this week. They've given up the 5th most yards, 11 touchdowns on the ground. That's 5th most. And have allowed 7 running backs over 90 yards rushing on the season. So I think both these guys have good outlooks. You saw what Javonte Williams did last week. 23 carries, 102 yards, 6 receptions, 76 yards and a touchdown. That's the production you could have seen Javonte Williams with more than likely all season long if Melvin Gordon wasn't there. I think they played it safe with Javonte Williams, but it's time to unleash him in my opinion. But I get it. Melvin Gordon's going to be that thorn probably for the rest of the season at least. So I'd be starting both of them here. If Gordon is available and active, they're saying he's supposed to practice today. Today's Wednesday. Gordon has cleared 80 yards rushing in 2 of his last 3 games. Before last week, he had 4 straight games with a touchdown. So touchdown upside is still there with Melvin Gordon, and I think both these guys could be very productive in this game. I don't see how Detroit's going to get 13 points. Denver's played very good defense, especially at home, and now you got Detroit coming in here. I know they're riding high, but yeah, I think the Denver Broncos is going to run all over the Detroit Lions. So I like Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Both starts for me this week. Chuba Hubbard facing the Atlanta Falcons. 7th most fantasy points at the running back position. Hubbard has averaged 18 carries each individual game that Christian McCaffrey was out over the 5 weeks that he was out on injured reserve. He averaged 2 receptions per game in that game, so that's 20 touches. You're going to take that from a solid RB2 spot. He's already faced these Atlanta Falcons. 24 carries, 82 yards and a touchdown against Atlanta earlier in the season. So you got to be starting Chuba Hubbard here. I get it. People are worried about Amir Abdullah and him stealing some touches and things like that. And, of course, you got Cam Newton, who can always steal some red zone looks. But I think Chuba Hubbard is going to be able to get it done this week, probably as a mid-range RB2 with upside. If he breaks off a big run, scores some touchdowns. They are at home. It's a good matchup for him. Another guy I like this week, Saquon Barkley. I can't believe we got to talk about him as a starter, a start sit in any question, but he just hasn't been getting it done on the season. He's being very limited on his touches. Last week, I want to say he lost 4 or 5 carries and 3 or 4 receptions to Devontae Booker, but Saquon looked pretty explosive last week. 11 carries for 55 yards to add 6 receptions and 19 yards in full PPR. You'll take, 11, 12 points, no problem. Saquon Barkley, you got to more than likely limit him and look at him as a RB2. But this week, it's a great matchup. Los Angeles Chargers give up the 5th most fantasy points to the running back position. They've given up 15 touchdowns on the ground. That's second most in the league. The second most rushing yards. It's just a good spot for Saquon here. And look, Jake Fromm is more than likely going to be under center for the New York Giants. Jake Fromm, signed from the practice squad of the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, it's not looking pretty for the Giants' outlook. What can they do best in this game? The best thing I think they could do is pull a New England Patriots and just turn around and hand the ball off. Pound the football and pound it some more because that's the only thing they're going to be able to do. Try and limit the turnovers. Do your best to play defense and try and keep Justin Herbert off the field as much as possible. So I think Saquon Barkley here could honestly see one of his most carries of the season. hopefully he could push 20 carries. I really think that's what they need to do to establish a run here against a team that's really given up run. So Saquon Barkley, to me, is a must start. Should probably be a top 15 back at least this week, if not more. I really think he could have a good day here because the New York Giants are going to be very limited in their play calling. I really just think so. So Saquon Barkley, great spot. Los Angeles Chargers, at least one rushing touchdown allowed in their last 8 games to a running back. So smash spot for Saquon Barkley. My last start of the week, Deontay Foreman. Now, this is a lower-end start. I get it. He's not flashy, and he's not going to get you a ton of fantasy points more than likely, but he had a pretty good day against the New England Patriots. 19 carries, 109 yards, did have the fumble lost. Jacksonville Jaguars, 9th most fantasy points to the running back position. They've allowed 12 touchdowns, which is 4th most in the league. They've allowed a 100-yard rusher in 3 of the last 4 games. And what do we know of the history of the Tennessee Titans versus Jacksonville Jaguars? Derrick Henry. And I get it, Deontay Foreman is not Derrick Henry, but he's the closest thing to Derrick Henry in that backfield. So I like him this week as a start. Derrick Henry, 12 rushing touchdowns in 6 games, in the last 6 games against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not saying Deontay Foreman's going to have some monster day, but what I will say is I could see Foreman with 70 to 100 rushing yards here, and I think he could get a score. So that's going to give you that solid RB2 production that you're hoping for. I get it. I wouldn't start him over, some of your stud guys. I think this week you got to start your studs. You got to set your lineup, set it and forget it with your best available players that you have, and that's all you can hope for. It's your last week. So, but I do like Deontay Foreman, a good start this week. Dontrell Hilliard, I also like him kind of as a flex type option, but Jeremy McNichols expected to practice. If he clears the protocol and he's active, I think that limits Hilliard's upside a little bit, and I think Foreman's still going to be that early down guy. So, and I think Tennessee Titans are going to be able to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they should easily handle them. Jacksonville just looks like a mess, and once again, Jacksonville's going to be on the road again. They don't play well on the road. So, on to some sits, and really my running back sits this week are pretty simple. I have groups of running backs, which is essentially teams of running backs that I'm just staying away from. So first off, the Buffalo Bills running backs at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay, 4th fewest fantasy points to the running backs, the fewest yards rushing, the second most. They have allowed the second most receiving yards. But I can't trust the backfield in Buffalo. Matt Breida was the hope last week. And what happened? Oh, well, Zach Moss is active now. And now that we're back to this 3-headed monster. And then Breida, he gets charged with the fumble. I mean, that exchange, and who knows? I mean, it bounces right off his chest. It was pretty terrible. But Matt Breida, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, who can you trust at the running back position, especially this week in a must-win game? I don't like any of them. So if all 3 are active, there's no way I can start any of them. I think Josh Allen's going to do his best impression to air the ball out this week and really put up some big numbers. Tampa Bay secondary still struggling a little bit, so I'd be sitting the Buffalo Bills running backs unless you absolutely have to, and then it's going to come down to the game. If Zach Moss is inactive, maybe you take a chance with Matt Breida, or maybe take a chance with Devin Singletary. But if all 3 are active, I just can't trust any of them. So now we got the Houston running backs. Rex Burkhead, David Johnson. No, I can't trust any of these guys. They stink. That's literally, I have it written down. They stink. That is all. I can't trust them. It's a great matchup. Seattle, 2nd most fantasy points to the running back position, the most rushing yards. I mean, what can you say? What can you really say? I can't trust them. So Rex Burkhead, David Johnson, don't feel froggy enough to get them in your lineup, considering it's such a great matchup that, hey, maybe they can do something. Rex Burkhead has had a couple back-to-back good matchups, and he's done nothing with his opportunities. So I'm sitting Houston running backs this week. On the flip side of that coin, the Seattle running backs, they're facing the Houston Texans. Another good matchup. Houston have allowed 14 rushing touchdowns within the 5-yard line. So it bodes well for the running back position. But is Alex Collins going to be active and healthy? You got Travis Homer on some passing downs. You got, DJ Dallas. Is he active, inactive? Is Rashad Penny, what's he going to do? They sign Adrian Peterson. He carries the full workload. I don't love the running back room. There's too many options there for them. If I was going to roll out and I had to pick somebody, obviously I would pick Adrian Peterson to fall in the end zone in a short goal line situation. But outside of that, I can't trust the running backs here. It is a good spot. Like I mentioned, Houston, 4th most fantasy points to the running back position, so it bodes well for this matchup. But I just don't like the running backs on both sides of the ball in this matchup. So, and then my last group of running backs that I'm going to be sitting this week is going to be the New York Jets running backs. Now, Tevin Coleman missed practice with a concussion, it looks like, might be in the protocol. If he were to miss, you got Ty Johnson, you got Austin Walter, Sorry, I had to relook at his name because I don't remember it because he had 1 carry last week. But facing the New Orleans Saints defense that's allowed the fewest fantasy points to the running back position, the second fewest yards, just 5 rushing touchdowns, and they've allowed just 2 touchdowns total to running backs since week 9. So I don't like the outlook here. I can't trust Ty Johnson or I can't trust Walter here. I wouldn't play any of these guys. I'd be sitting him on the bench. This is your must-win game. If those are your options, then I feel bad for you because they're just not going to get it done. Maybe one of them falls in the end zone. Maybe in garbage time, Ty Johnson has 5-6 catches. But I'm going to be staying away from this backfield altogether. So that's it. That's my running back sit starts heading in to week number 14. I'll tell you again, just don't get cute. Play your studs, play your starters. They're playing well, even in tough matchups. I mean, sometimes you got to live with what you got. So if you have any questions about any running backs, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my advice. And while you're there, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell for all your fantasy football information. We got 2-3 weeks left, all the way up to your fantasy championships. Hopefully, you're going to pick up those W's and take home the ship. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.